Hi, I'm Anna Renee, and this is a little bit about my new EP, Speaking Her Mind. I released my debut album Skin last year, which was a collection of songs written mainly during my teenage years or during university. This EP consists of the last of those older songs, and I actually recorded it at the same time as the album. I decided to split these 5 songs onto a separate EP because I felt that some of them had a slightly more poppy style than most of the others, and some of them sort of look back on the subject matter sung about in certain songs on the album with a slightly older and more self-assured perspective. So I thought that these songs showed a bit of progression in a way, and I thought they didn't quite fit as well with the songs that I chose to include on Skin. The first track on the EP is the title track, Speaking Her Mind. I was a very socially anxious teenager during high school. I would often freeze up during conversations with people that I really wanted to be friends with because I'd be so nervous about impressing them or wanting to be funny. There was often a lot going on in my head, but I struggled to articulate it, and then I'd often revisit conversations in my head afterwards and know exactly what I should have said or a joke I could have made. I realised how dull I must have seemed to people when, in fact, around my friends and people I knew well enough to come out of my shell, I could be the complete opposite of this shy, nervous person that a lot of people saw. I feel like I had a few missed opportunities because of this. For example, there was someone that I had a crush on at one point, and he actually liked me back for a while, but every time we'd talk online or meet up, the conversation would just fizzle out because I was overthinking what I wanted to say to try to craft this persona of who I thought I wanted to be, instead of just being natural and being myself. So that didn't actually go anywhere, and as with most things, I wrote a song about it instead.
But deep down there's a girl who's speaking her mind, telling everybody what she's feeling inside is more than just skin deep.
The next song on the EP is called They Say. This is a really old song. I wrote it when I was about 14, around the same time that I wrote The Soldier, which is on my debut album. This was one of the first fully structured songs I ever wrote, and like The Soldier, it wasn't really inspired by any particular events or anything that had happened in my life. At this age, I was just getting to grips with songwriting, so I would come up with an idea of something dramatic to write about and see where it took me. This song took the idea of a dysfunctional family and turned it into almost a ghost story, where it begins describing an old dilapidated house that's kind of haunted by its past. I imagined a scenario where nobody else wanted to move in because it had been so loveless, almost like it was cursed, and so the house just fell apart over the years, but the neighbours still whispered and gossiped about the family who used to live there. That was what inspired me to add the actual whispers to the recording of this song. They were supposed to be the voices of people in the neighbourhood or people walking past the house whispering about it. The next song on the EP is My Heaven. This song was written during a big turning point in my life where I was growing up and really becoming aware of who I was and what I believed in. My first relationship had ended because my boyfriend at the time had been involved in a religion where he was required to leave for 2 years to go on a mission to Australia, which is what the title track of my album Skin is all about. During the time that he was away, I did a lot of growing up, and I slowly began to realise that if we were ever going to work in the long run once he returned, I would have had to convert to his religion. So that's a pretty big realisation and a pretty big crossroads for someone so young, but I grew to accept the fact that that was simply not going to happen, and so the song My Heaven kind of explores that. There are some very cutting lyrics in there, as I had a lot of anger to express about the situation, but there's also some slightly more soppy ones, such as that to me, being with him was my idea of heaven.
And now with hazy memories, I'm doing okay, 'cause I am with you when I dream behind closed eyes. I am where my heaven lies. Oh.
The fourth song on the EP is Celebrity, which is one of my more unusual songs in some ways. I remember the inspiration for this one came after I'd seen a trailer for an Amy Winehouse biopic that was coming out. It made me really sad watching it, and it got me thinking about celebrities who have passed away at a young age, and how, no matter what incredible things they've accomplished in life, their stories are often tainted by the tragic circumstances of their death. And from then on, that's the main thing that people remember or recall when they're talked about. They often all get tarred with the same brush, and the general public all think they know the story and all have their opinions on that person and judge them on the mistakes they may have made, and we often forget that we really didn't know them. We forget sometimes that all we see of celebrities is a public persona, and that they are real, complex people with multifaceted lives who feel things just as much as we do. And it's sad to think that these people have no way of claiming back their dignity after they're gone. They have no control over their story or how they're remembered, they can't defend themselves or explain what happened. So I wrote this song from their perspective to explore the damaging effects that fame can have. The last song on the EP is called The Blame. This was written around the same time as My Heaven and has much the same subject matter. It looks back at my first relationship with a new perspective. I was a little more mature and much more self-assured at this point, and I was finally able to stop feeling guilty, like it had been my fault that things had ended for not being able to make myself believe in his religion. I was finally able to realise the unfairness of the situation and to lay the blame on the other person and the oppressiveness of it all. Shifting the blame away from myself was the key to me being able to move on from it and to move forward with my life, knowing myself better and knowing what I wanted and what aspects of myself I wasn't willing to change for someone else.
If love was black and white.